lesson is about processing bank feeds and comes from the Basic QBO Certification course. But before we get into today's lesson, if you are an accounting professional in need of help getting your QBO ProAdvisor certification, then you have come to the right place because that's all we do. So if that's of interest to you, please subscribe to our channel and click the bell to get notified every time we upload a new video. With that, let's get started. Today we'll be walking through exercise 5.1, processing bank feeds. If you would like a copy so you can follow along, click the link in the description to find out how you can access our practice library. You'll also find a link there to find out about our full certification courses. So the lesson that we're working on today is the processing bank feeds. And to do that, you're going to need to access the sample company. And if you don't need, there's instructions below if you don't know how to do that yet, if you're brand new. But hopefully you have lots of experience in the sample company because it really is a gift from Intuit to us to be able to practice these things. So here we are in our sample company. I am at step 1, log into the sample company. Step 2, from the left nav bar, we're going to click banking. So here I am going to click banking. And here we are in the banking center. You'll notice that I have different tiles here that represent each of my bank accounts. And the one that's in blue is our checking account. That's what we're going to be working on today. There are 25 transactions that need to be processed. You'll notice the number 25 here in orange. Also, it says for review, there are 25. And then this is our filter that is currently showing all transactions that's showing 25. So that's how I know that there are 25. So still in step 3, it says select the all transactions filter and notice that there are 14 that have been recognized. That is that QBO thinks it has found a good match for. So I'm going to click all transactions, and you'll notice here it says that there are 14. You'll notice also there's the option to select matched. The difference between recognized and matched is that matched means that they already match up, or QBO thinks that they do, match up to a transaction in QBO. Recognized will include not only the ones that are matched, but also the ones that it thinks that it knows what the category is. And so both of those are included in recognized. For the purpose of this exercise, we're going to just be looking at the recognized transactions first. Okay, so I'm scrolling down to step 4. The first transaction has matched to a check written to Hicks Hardware. This is likely okay, so go ahead and click match. So here we are. I'll scroll down a little bit so we can see it better. Here's our first transaction, Hicks Hardware. It says it has matched to check 75, and so we're just going to click match. This is what we really want to do all the time. This is what we hope we can do, is always match it to the a bank fee transaction to a QuickBooks Online transaction. So we're going to click match. Heading back to my exercise, step 5, the second transaction is a deposit. So you see right here, there's no description or payee. Here is the deposit. I'm going to click on it. So we're still in step 5. Click the item, then click deposit. So right here it says deposit. I'm going to click on that. And then you'll be able to see all of the transactions that are in that deposit. So remember, in previous workflows, if you collected a cash or check and you put it in undeposited funds, then you made a deposit and you took all of the cash and checks together and made one deposit out of it. And that's what's showing here. So we have one deposit that included a check from Amy's Bird Sanctuary, some money from Duke's basketball camp, etc. All of those together made $868.15. Okay, so that's just showing you what the bank deposit looks like. We don't need to do anything here, so we're just going to click X up there. I just wanted to make sure you saw what it kind of looked like in there. Okay, so this one's okay, so we're going to go ahead and match it. Clicking match. That was just step 6. Now we're going to go to step 7. Notice further down in the list, there is an item that QBO believes is a match, but the description and the payee don't match. So here's the one I'm talking about right here, Books by Bessie and Pam, let's call her Sites for the purposes of today. So Books by Bessie and Pam Sites, that means that's not a good match. So we're going to click on this transaction, and then we're going to find match. See how that has a radio button? We're going to select here, find other matches. So I'm going to select that. And we're on step 9 now. Notice QBO found another match with the correct payee. So here we have this check, Books by Bessie, and we're going to go ahead and click Save. So that one is all cleared up. Back on step 10, notice that the item previously matching Books by Bessie is now correctly matching a transaction for Pam Sites. So here it is, this one right here, Pam Sites, Pam Sites. So we're going to go ahead and match that one. All right, moving on to step 11. Scroll down to the bottom of the list and notice that there is one item that does not say one record found. Rather, QBO is guessing based on your history that the transaction should be categorized as bookkeeping fees. Okay, so let's go look for that. It's down at the bottom of the list. And this happened to me the other night. It's supposed to say that right here. It doesn't. So because the sample company is always changing, so it's blank right now, but if you click it, you'll notice that it says legal and professional bookkeeping fees. So it did assign that correct category. And so that one is already fixed. Oh, because it didn't have a match. So now my option here is to add. But I never, ever, ever want to add something until I have tried to find the match. So just like before, I'm going to click Find Match. And then voila, there it is. It found a match. I don't know why it didn't find it before, but always, always, always look to find a match before you add any transactions, because otherwise you'll end up with duplicates. So I'm going to go ahead and click Save. All right, so that was step 12. It's tempting to always match. Click Find Match. Okay, so step 13, sure enough, QBO found a transaction to match. At this point, all the transactions look good, so you can batch add them. Click the Select All checkbox. Okay, so let me tell you what this Select All checkbox is. So here are all of my different transactions, and they have check marks down here on the left-hand side. And I can select the top checkbox on the top of the column. When I check that, then all of the ones in my list the remaining in my list will be checked. And as soon as I check one item, I have this black bar up here at the top that gives me 3 options that are accept, update, and exclude. So let's talk really quick, because there is a question on the test that you have to understand what the difference between these 3 things are. So let me just talk briefly about what those are. So first of all, we have accept. Accept is if you want to take all of the transactions as is, right? So you're saying everything about them is correct. I'm just going to keep it. I'm going to accept them. Update is if you want to change all of these transactions in the same way. So all of these are missing payees, for example, but I want to update them, then I would add all the same payee in those transactions. So that's what update means. It means I'm changing the transactions I have selected. The third option is to exclude. If these are duplicate transactions, then you don't even want to process them. Why would there be duplicate transactions? Well, there's basically 3 reasons. One, because you're manually uploading transactions, meaning that instead of automatically connecting to the bank, you're getting a CSV file from the bank and then manually uploading it. And then let's say you accidentally uploaded the same file twice, then you would have duplicate transactions in there. Second reason is that you manually uploaded them, and then later you connected the bank so that you have the manual transactions in there, and then you also have the bank uploaded transactions. So that's one reason there'd be a second reason there'd be a duplicate. And then the third reason there'd be a duplicate is if the bank for some reason sent them twice. Yeah, a glitch in the system, or maybe they're sending a pending one first and then they send the real one later, something like that. So that's why you would have duplicate transactions from the bank. We're talking about bank duplicates, not QBO duplicates. And you would want to exclude them. All right, so for the purposes of this exercise, we are going to go ahead and accept all of them, and that is step 15 on your exercise. Remember, you can be following along in the exercise. You can grab it just by following the link below. Okay, so now we're on step 16. You'll notice down here it says we couldn't find transactions that match your search. It kind of looks like an error message. It's got that exclamation point. But really, the only reason you're seeing that is because we are filtering only the recognized transactions. So if we look up here, this is our filter. We don't want to just see the recognized ones. Now we need to see everything else. So I'm going to click that X, and now all the transactions that are left are going to be there, and you see we have 9 left to go through. Okay, so that was step number 16. Now we're in step 17. In this list, we find a transaction that matched 2 records. So here we are, squeaky clean car wash, 2 matches found. So we're going to click that transaction, and you'll notice that there are 2 transactions, and it's not QBO is not sure which is the correct one. Now, if this were real life, you as the bookkeeper would want to go in and investigate. Why are there 2 transactions here, and what do I need to do about it? In the case of this exercise, we're just going to match the one that has the same date. Okay, so this one is 7/19, this one is 7/19, so that's the one we're going to select, and we're going to click match. Remember, in a real world, you would go back and you would figure out, what happened there. All right, so going back to our exercise, that was step 18 that we just did. All right, so now we're on step 19. It says, notice that the first 2 transactions left in the list are uncategorized income. See this right here, uncategorized income, one for $55, one for $200. So these are probably refunds. That's usually, if you suddenly see income like this from vendors, that's probably a refund. So what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and process them. So let's see, I want to make sure that we're still with our exercise. These are likely refunds, will not be reflected anywhere in QBO. Let's go ahead. It's okay to go ahead and add them, but be sure to follow the correct process. So for Books by Bessie, we don't want to just add because it's the category is not correct. It's uncategorized. So we want to make sure and categorize that correctly before we add it. So we're going to go in Books by Bessie. We're going to type in here bookkeeping. See if I can type today. There it is. I never can type that right the first time. All right, here we go. So we're going to select our bookkeeping fees, and then once we have done that, we can go ahead and add. And so now we're on step 20. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and click add for that. All right, so our next one is says a rental. Let me go back. I want to make sure that we're on the right exercise. Step 21. All right, so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to click this, but you notice that there is the vendor customer is missing. In this case, it's a vendor that we rented some equipment from. So as I type in A1 rental, there we go. A1 rental, I'm going to have to add it. It's not already in the system. So I'm going to add A1 rental. When I click that, it will pop up giving me the opportunity to create this new A1 rental. Hopefully you've seen that because this happens all over the place in QuickBooks where you can add something new just on the fly. This is a vendor, not a customer, so I'm going to click that. vendor, and then I'm going to go ahead and save it. I can add my details later. So I've added the vendor there, but I still have to put in the category. And this one is going to be equipment rental. So equipment rental, we're going to put it as a subaccount of job expenses. All right, you'll notice that it says here, bank detail, A1 rental deposit refund. I always like to copy that information into the memo field, which is why I have it in the exercise here in step 23. It looks like QBO is now automatically adding that memo, adding that detail in the memo field, so that's great. Maybe we can take out that step, but it's important to have that in there because we want to make sure that if we go back for auditing purposes and say, hey, why did we get $200 from A1 rental? Then we can look back in the memo and say, oh yes, it was the refund for that deposit, or the deposit refund for that backhoe rental. Okay, so we want to make sure that that's in the memo field, and once that's all set up, we can click add. All right, so now we are on to step 24. Now that the vendor is saved, you can batch add the remaining A1 rental items. So we're going to select those two right there. And remember what I talked about before, we have this black money bar, or this black bar that comes up now with accept, update, and exclude. So we don't want to accept them because the payee is empty. And we also don't want to accept them because it's the expense is uncategorized. So what we're going to use this time is that update button. That update allows us to change all of the things that we have checked here in the same way. So we're going to click update. All of these transactions, there's two of them, they're both expenses, they're both A1 rental. So I can put an A1 rental, and they're both equipment rental, right? So we're going to put equipment rental, subaccount of job expenses. And then we're going to go ahead and apply and accept. Now I could just change it and not actually accept the add, but we're going to go ahead and do that for the purposes of this exercise. So I'm going to click apply and accept. And then that was step 25. Okay, so the next transaction is for Mahoney mugs. And remember, you never want to add, you always want to try and find a match first. So we're going to click the transaction, we're going to click find match. And voila, there it found a match. I don't know why it didn't find it before, but it didn't. So here it is. We're going to go ahead and save that one. That was step 27. We're going to do the same thing for Chin's Gas. We're going to click on it. We're going to select find match. Ta-da! And then click save. Okay, so now we are moving on to Tim Phillip Masonry. Okay, so we're going to click Tim Phillip Masonry, and wouldn't it be nice if it were just like those other two, and we go ahead and we scroll down a little bit and we find a match and it were right there. But when I do that, you'll notice that it didn't automatically find a matching transaction. So if I scroll down and I look at this, I can find here is a Tim Phillip Masonry. Here is $666, but the problem is that the date doesn't match. So the date of this, 7/20, is, here's the date of the transaction. The transaction happened before, I'm sorry, the bank record happened before the transaction. It shouldn't work like that. It should work that the transaction happens and then the bank happens. So you would want to go back and say, whoa, what happened here? Did I forget a transaction? Did I just edit it? Did I just add it wrong? I accidentally put in the wrong date? Or was there supposed to be a second one that this is supposed to match, and then later there's one that's going to match the one that's already in there? As a bookkeeper, you would want to investigate that. For the purposes of this exercise, we're just going to say that it is matching on this one right here. Okay, so that's just for the purposes of this exercise. So I'm going to click save. And that was step 29. Okay, so now we have one transaction left, which is here for Hicks Hardware. We're going to click on this transaction, and we're going to see what happens with this one. Again, we're going to find match. And again, just like with Tim Phillip Masonry, it pulls up a whole list, but wait a minute, there isn't one that is $24.38. If you look carefully though, you'll see that there is one here for $24.36 that is Hicks Hardware. So what happened here? Well, one thing that I always talk about in my classes is when we're going through bank feeds, the bank is always right. The information that comes from the bank, that's going to be what's accurate. What's not going to be accurate is what's in QBO, because humans are entering it in QBO, and probably what happened here is somebody just typed it in wrong, and now when the bank feed came across, then it didn't match it. So if I were to just add that transaction, that's how we would end up with duplicates. We'd end up with one for $24.36 and one for $24.38. So what we have to do is we have to edit this Hicks Hardware one to make sure that it matches the bank. Now there are a number of ways that we can do that. I'm going to first click close. And I'm going to use, for the purposes of this exercise, I'm going to use this search feature. So I'm going to click on the search button, and I'm going to type in $24.36. That's the incorrect one. That's the transaction that we're looking for that we need to change. That's incorrect. So I typed in $24.36. I hit enter. Here's that expense. And I'm going to change it now to be $24.38. Okay, and tap out of it. And click Save and Close. And now we're back in our bank feeds. Yeah, just click off of these little messages from QBO. Now we're back in our bank feeds, and look at that, Hicks Hardware. Now it's matching because we fixed the amount. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click match, and then that's it. And then we get this green check mark, which is my favorite thing in the whole world because I am such a nerd. I just love that green check mark. There's one here that says we're all set, and there's one here that we're all set. So that's it for processing bank feeds. Now, one thing I forgot to read at the beginning is the scenario when you would do this. Okay, so let me just read real quick at the top of the exercise. As a bookkeeper, your primary responsibility is to ensure all financial transactions are correctly categorized and match the flow of money into and out of the bank. What you will learn in the following exercise, or the exercise we just did, is a good example of your day-to-day workflow. So this is what you're going to be spending your days doing, is going through, looking at the bank feeds, matching them to QuickBooks Online, making sure that everything is correct. All right, and that's it for today's lesson. Make sure you visit in the links below, getting a copy of this exercise via our practice library, or you can get the full course. There's a link to that as well. If you need help, if you don't know how to access the sample company, that's in the description as well. And I look forward to your success. See you next time.